Now, here's a good one before we go on to the next topic. My man, Mike Mann. Big B, do you think George P is a problem moving forward in the locker room? 1,000%. I think he is. I think he's a problem right now in the locker room. And if the Steelers could get off of him and get a better receiver, they would do it. I think that's why they're so big on trying to trade for Devontae Adams, which is not going to happen. I don't believe it. But I think they're like, look, yeah, maybe our wide receiver room doesn't necessarily – I think it gets better. If you trade Devontae Adams for George Pickens, Devontae Adams is better than George Pickens, period. I don't care if he's 31 years old. He's better than him. And it's not even close. So we get better. Do we get older and more expensive? Yes. But we absolutely get better. So maybe that's why they're looking to get rid of him and saying, hey, man, before the season with IU, we didn't want to throw George Pickens in there because it doesn't really help our situation. Well, now that we know our situation that we're into the season, Pickens ain't helping. Let's get rid of him. Let's bring in Adams, and we're better. We're a better team. And I think that's the way they look at it, is that we're a better football team. Let's be rid of it. So somebody put in the comments on the All 22 video talking about we haven't had a number one receiver since AB left. You're exactly right. We haven't. We've had a bunch of 2s and 3s. And now we still have that because, look, George Pickens has the talent, but as we all know, football is not just talent. You got to have a mentality. You got to have a work ethic. George Pickens doesn't have the talent or he's got the talent. He doesn't have the mentality or the work ethic to be a top receiver in this league right now. I'm not saying he can't have it, but as of this very second, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. And it's too bad because he's a top 5 as far as talent. If you're just talking sheer talent, top 5 receiver in the league. But it's all the other things that come with it, man. It's all the other things that come with it. So let's move on. As we're talking about George Pickens, his attitude flares up again. I just don't know. I don't know. Like I mentioned, he's ultra talented. He can make all those unbelievable catches. And he's an incredible. Here's the thing. Like, people talk about his blocking and the lack of effort that he showed. What was it? The Colts game last year. But you know what we saw from him when he wants to block? We saw it. It's on tape. It's not a myth. It's not make-believe. When he wants to block, George Pickens can block guys. He just doesn't want to. That's all it comes down to. He just doesn't want to. So, and that's the frustrating thing. If he couldn't block, for instance, Pat Freiermuth is not a good blocker. We all know that. We've all seen it. He tries, but he is not a good blocker. And it just is what it is. It is what it is. But as far as everything else, I don't know. George Pickens just isn't. He just doesn't give the effort. And that's the difference between him and Freiermuth. Freiermuth can't block, and he tries. Pickens can block. He doesn't try, which is frustrating. But I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do about it at this point other than to get rid of him. But if you get rid of him, you got to get talent back because otherwise the Steelers season is over. Or do you just ride it out and say, hey, man, you got to figure this out and enough is enough? I would guess they've probably already had that conversation and it's probably over with now since they're load managing George Pickens. Are you kidding me? They're load managing a 23-year-old wide receiver. It just, I don't know, man. I don't know. He was out there 59% of the offensive snaps the other night, which he should be embarrassed. But I think the coaching staff has just had enough. He was loafing on routes. It'd be one thing if he's loafing on blocking plays. You shouldn't do that, but it is what it is. But now you're loafing on routes where you could possibly get the ball? Yeah, you just can't have it. You can't have it. And that's the thing. You can see him jogging on routes, going 75%. You can see it. It's just, I don't know. His attitude has always been in question, but you never really saw his attitude be in question on I don't know, on routes. You never saw it, and now it is. I think it may be time to just move on, people. I mean, what do you guys think? Put it in the comment. You think it's time for the Steelers to try to upgrade from George Pickens? Because how long do they have to wait for him to change his attitude? Hell, they got rid of Deontay Johnson because Deontay Johnson was a cancer that almost got beat up in the locker room last year. You know, the Steelers have really worked hard to get their locker room under control. Um, Traded guys that I don't even think should have been traded. Like I said, Deontay Johnson was the best route runner on the team by far, and you got rid of him because you wanted a better locker room. Well, Pickens didn't learn from that. Well, then now you just made your team worse for nothing. I don't know. I don't know. And at some point, don't we got to blame Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin for this? Because literally, you made your team worse by getting rid of Deontay Johnson. You bring in Dante Jackson. That's no slight to him, but Deontay Johnson is a good receiver in this league and has been. He still is. But I don't know. You tried to clean up the locker room and it didn't work. And now you're stuck. It's terrible. Let's get to some comments here. Mike Tomlin thinks he can straighten anybody out and looks over things in the draft process. He's been proven wrong too many times. Yeah. Yeah. How many times does Mike Tomlin have to be proved wrong in trying to overlook things? Chase Claypool. I mean, the list goes on and on. You know, with guys that are ultra talented but can't figure it out in the locker room. And sometimes that talent doesn't your attitude what gets in the way. Look at Chase Claypool. You're telling me that Chase Claypool can't play in the National Football League? You're telling me that he can't be, and not just on a team. You're telling me that he doesn't have the ability to be a number 2 wide receiver in the National Football League? Of course he does. But that attitude, he thought he was better than what he actually was. And now here's where he sits. It's ugly. It's ugly. But we got to stop doing that. You can't change everybody, man. It's a new age. Mike Tomlin's been around a long time. Okay? You can't get through to everybody. You just can't. That's not in the world that we live in anymore. It's not. So, what else did y'all have to say down here? Not yet. Need to see the next game, but he's on the radar for sure, says Mike Mann. Yeah, he is. He is on the radar. I just, like I said, he doesn't seem to have overcome the maturity issues that have been a problem since Georgia. And if they were a problem in Georgia, I'm guessing they were a problem when he was in high school too. At some point, you got to grow up, man, and just be a professional. And that's not what he's doing right now. He's not being professional. And it's too bad because the Pittsburgh Steelers got a problem because they need him. They need him. They need him to do his job, and he's not. So it's a problem.